Throwdown Nation. We are live on a Monday night. We are coming through on Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. And we are here with episode 35 of the Throwdown. And tonight, it is my pleasure to have with me as my guest Indiana-based wrestler Ashton Adonis. How you doing, sir?
Doing well, sir. Thank you again. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. I'm excited that we're streaming on all platforms accessible. So we're going to have fun. We're going to talk about kind of the why behind everything I do and kind of go from there and give everyone insight a little bit who is the end-all be-all Ashton Adonis. So it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Absolutely. So we will start off, sir, with the first and most obvious question, and that is, how long have you been wrestling?
So I've been actively wrestling and doing live shows in front of all these lovely fans for about a year now. Very new, very, early into my tenure, relatively than a lot of my fellow peers. But nonetheless, I've been training for roughly around 3 to 4 years before that. Obviously, the pandemic played a little bit of a toll in my development, like anyone else throughout that time. Very difficult time where I had to really decide whether this is something I truly want to pursue after and invest into. But relatively been on the road for about a year now in front of everybody in a live setting.
Absolutely. And a year is more than enough time to know that you are the end-all be-all.
Yeah, I've stepped across a lot of familiar foes, a lot of newer foes, and a lot of tenured, inexperienced foes. So, nonetheless, I can say relatively, I can keep up with some of the best, and then I can also get the best out of some of the newer. So, it's been an exciting experience.
That's great. So who actually trained you?
So, I've had a couple of trainers, a couple of people that I've experienced through. When I first started training here back from my place where I was born and raised, and that's inside of Massachusetts, a little bit 30 minutes north of Boston and Beverly, Massachusetts. I was training out of the Kowalski School in Wakefield, Massachusetts. So I started my tenure there, kind of picked up from some of my trainers back there. Throughout the time, we've had people coming in and out there. Transitioned from that school to New England Pro Wrestling Academy, which is now they run shows under the branch name of Chaotic Wrestling. So I was there for roughly about a year and a half or so, and then the pandemic happened, and obviously personal reasons and stuff like that, you couldn't really be training at that time. Moved a little bit forward past that, moved to Indiana for some work reasons, and I've been training under my mentor, my trainer, Jake Oman, currently at this moment.
I have heard great things about Jake Oman. So
yes, phenomenal. Has experience and wisdom far more than I've seen a lot of people that have as much tenure as he does. He is really making sure that his students are polished. So when we're out there, making sure that we're representing his school, his brand, his name with high amounts of integrity and just going out there and showing the best that we physically can.
Awesome. Speed round. Ricky Steamboat.
Phenomenal. When I think of Ricky Steamboat, I think of what is professional wrestling. That is Ricky Steamboat. When I think of the personification of the arm drag, I think of Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
Absolutely. The guy is the king of fundamentals. I mean,
no one can do the fundamentals, that A and B, better than Ricky. So one of the best to truly ever step in the squared circle.
Absolutely. So, have you been a fan of this stuff pretty much all of your life, or did it come about later in life?
From when I was an earlier kind of a person, I really found a natural escape in professional wrestling. So back around, I would say 2002, 2003 was when I fully can remember really enjoying myself watching those Friday night SmackDowns there, those Monday Night Raws, even though when like my parents didn't really want me to watch it, I made sure that I was able to watch it and sneak watching it. So back all the way in 2002, I was roughly around 5 to 6 years old at that time.
Mm-hmm. So would you say that's probably your earliest wrestling related memory?
Yes, that's probably the earliest memories that I can really recall. I was a big fan, obviously, back in the day of like the Rey Mysterios, the Kurt Angles, the Batistas. SmackDown was a stacked roster with like Eddie Guerrero and all those feuds. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
those are all those prime memories all stem from there. And that's where I really found out this is something I really want to pursue and what I love doing.
Gotcha. So, at what point in your life did you look up at the screen and think, you know, something, I think I can do this?
There's so many times, but when I was young, just that being able to be the person that helps be a natural escape for people throughout their childhood. Maybe they may not have the best family life, maybe they may not have the best home, but being able to provide that natural escape for them, that escape from reality, because at the end of the day, reality is a tough world out there. But to be
It
that
is.
natural escape where they can have that 2 to 3 hours to just sit there and truly enjoy and to be soaked into the product is something that I really wish that I could do and provide to them, just like the people that came before me were able to provide to me and throughout my childhood.
Absolutely. So, speed round.
Yep.
This one is a little less known, perhaps,
Mhm.
but an interesting name. El Fantasmo.
El Phantasmo, I mean, he is, I would say, the epitome of what is the new lucha style. I mean, I think he is someone who's fantastic. I remember El Phantasmo when he had that quick impact stint there, relatively in the
Mm-hmm.
early 2020s, 2019, 2021, through the pandemic era, where Impact was truly kind of turning that leaf into the newer kind of refurbished product that it is. But that's
Yeah.
where I truly started watching some of his product and then picking up obviously on what he was doing prior. So definitely a modernized version of what is.
Absolutely. I loved the stuff he was doing over in New Japan during
Yep.
his little. He had a semi brief stint with Bullet Club over there, but the guy's amazingly talented, and I feel like he's kind of underrated actually.
Phenomenal
So
athlete. I mean, there's a difference between being super athletic and being able to be a great professional wrestler. There's a line there, but he's able to walk the line and actually tell a phenomenal story in between those ropes. So nothing but respect for him.
absolutely. So, and I'm fully aware that
Mhm.
training is an ongoing, lifelong type of thing. But as far as your initial training went, what would
Mhm.
you say was the most challenging part?
Making sure you don't hurt yourself and hit your head multiple times. So obviously, when a bunch of obviously us as fans are seeing what's happening on TV, we everyone thinks they can go out there and they can replicate it and they can do it,
Mm-mm.
and that is the problem. And honestly, it's good and bad thing, right? Because people think they can go out there and do things that are not able or capable of doing so without the proper storyline and premises around it. But when you're starting off, you think you can do all these moonsaults and back handsprings and everything. It's there's a story to it, and at the end of the day, fundamentals are key. Fundamentals are the most important part of professional wrestling, and being able to go out there and cascade that story to everybody is what you really want to focus on. But some of my biggest hurdles in the beginning were trying to do things that weren't up to my standards prematurely, I would say.
Absolutely. So, away from wrestling, Ashton, what are some of your other hobbies and interests?
So I am a full-time worker. I'm a district manager by job. That I love sales. I love sales environments. So I have a very keen sense of talking and speaking to the public, which I am not, afraid of. So it helps translate over a little bit more to that wrestling sense there, where I conduct conference calls, meetings, essentially everything in my real world life. So that's kind of what I do for a majority of the time. But if I'm not wrestling, you find me at home with my beautiful girlfriend and myself that we've been together for 6 years with my dog
Awesome.
and my animals at home. So here in Indiana, so there's nothing more that I can really do with my spare time, because very limited spare time you do have. You want to make sure your house life is definitely intact, because that's going to be your rock. That is what you're going to come to for your natural escapes. Because even though we love doing it, at the end of the day, it is a job. It is a toll on your body. So you need to have those escapes at home.
Absolutely. And I'll say this much. I'm coming up on 26 years married, and when you are with the right person, man, there is nothing like it. It's having that person is a blessing.
Especially
So
if you're in the business, you're on the road the majority of your time, making sure that they're taken care of at home, making sure that you're providing for your partner in every which way possible from a mental and physical standpoint. It definitely, that's definitely one of the conversations you have to have early if this is a passion that you want to pursue and go after. You have to make sure that the house life is 100%, satisfied and able to handle this, because if it's not strong enough, if your relationship is not strong enough, it's going to hinder it. It's going to cause issues. And there's been a lot of great relationships that have ended because of the passion of wrestling. So it's not a part-time, there are people that are happy where they are doing this for part-time, but if you really want to pursue after it and take it for what it's worth, you're going to have to invest 110% of your time and free time into doing that and making those hard decisions to go out there and chase a dream.
absolutely. Speed round. Arn Anderson.
Oh, double AA. I mean, one of the best of the
Yep.
spine buster to ever do it. I love
Oh
Arn
yeah.
Anderson.
Yeah. Nobody could do the spine buster the way Arn could.
No,
I
and
mean,
even a little paying homage to Arn Anderson on my boots for Ashton Adonis. I do have the AA going
oh,
down.
you got the double A. Yeah,
I
yeah.
got the
You're
double
a double A
A.
yourself.
I am. So, it's something that I pay homage to. I respect everything he's done, and he's one of the best to, definitely ever do it back in the day. So,
Gotcha. So you mentioned that you do have a day job. Um, do your have any of your coworkers come to see you wrestle?
they always talk about, it's funny because everyone wants to come out and do it, but no one, when push comes to shove, it's hard to find out who is actually out there to support you in doing so, because you're traveling hours on end to go put on, matches in front of inside of a bingo hall to, sometimes the Madison Square Garden. That you never know where
Right.
you're going to end up on any given weekend or weekday. Some of them have seen me, some of them have followed me obviously on my socials, and they have seen what I'm doing, and they always ask like, "Oh, why are you doing it? Why is this?" I'm like, "It's a passion, it's a love I have, and I'm able to balance both." And being able to do that is, I'm just fortunate enough to be able to have that option.
Very cool. Very cool. And you had mentioned a dog. What kind of dog do you have?
Oh, we got a husky.
Oh,
Husky full
nice.
energy, just like myself, and she's a German Shepherd Husky mix. And
Hmm.
then I just have a little cat. I don't know what mix the cat is, but it's a just a little white cat, a little fur ball. We call my cat Cheesecake, and my dog's name is Oakley. So uh,
Nice.
they're just kicking and cooling it here at the house.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, we've actually got 3 shelter rescue Chihuahua mixes.
Awesome.
Uh, I've got one. My wife's got one, and our 15-year-old son has the third. So, they keep us busy, and they're a lot of fun. So
Absolutely.
I
It's
always got to ask about the dogs. So
Yep, they're your partner in crime. So they're always, when you come home, the first one to greet you and the last one to say goodbye.
yep. So you had mentioned that well, I guess currently your hometown is Indianapolis, roughly.
Roughly a
Um,
little bit north of Indianapolis. I reside in Carmel, which is one of the cities outside of Indianapolis. So it's 20-25 minutes out from the city, enough to get away from the city, but it's close enough to be a part of the city as well.
Gotcha. What is your favorite thing about Indiana, just in general?
So Indiana, what I love coming from where I originally was, it's definitely a step back from a pace standpoint, where it's a little bit slower paced, not as fast paced lifestyle, where it's, to me, somewhere where I would like to really grow a family. It's financially more suitable to be able to afford to live out here, obviously from an economic standpoint, cost of living standpoint, everything like that, as well as from a commute standpoint for my job, as well as wrestling. It's kind of in the center point of everything we have going on here in the United States. So I can go back to New England this way. I can go to West Coast that way. We're very much called the crossroads of America for a reason. And that is one, it's easy to get anywhere from any highway that we are surrounded by.
Gotcha. Um, so They say that the best wrestling personas are yourself turned up to 11. Um, so tell me a bit about in-ring Ashton and compare and contrast him with everyday you.
Ashton is a personification of what I embody, is a loud entity that is flashy, as well as, I would say, not as humble, maybe a little bit more arrogant and over the top. But again, it's someone that, if I have a point to prove, I'm also going to back it up with words as well as athleticism and skill inside the ring. So I've always been a confident person growing up. I've always felt myself more of a leader in that type of standpoint, where when I'm in the ring, I'm just able to really deep dive into that and just expand upon it. Obviously, there are a lot of influences that kind of help perceive who I am and what I'm about inside the ring. But again, it's at the end of the day, I want to make it as me as possible, because there's many different, there's already been a Rick Rude, there's already been a AJ Styles, there's already a Cody Rhodes, but there is not another Ashton Adonis. So that is why you want to push yourself. It is you. You may take little things from everybody, like the AA, like Arn Anderson down my boot, but at the end of the day, that is mine. I've made it my own, and it's because I believe in what I am doing with that.
And, and creating a persona and a character is really a constant journey of finding and adjusting your voice.
And it's everything. No matter what your first persona that you may think is the best, you're always going to evolve on it. There's always going to be layers to the persona. There's always going to be something you want to add, tweak, take away. Like Ashton Adonis may not be forever, but it will be a pillar and it will be a stepping stone in who and what the final product may end up being from myself.
Gotcha. Speed round.
Boom.
Dustin Rhodes.
I love Dusty Rhodes because he's the everyday man. He was the embodiment of the average Joe winning it all. He was the guy that everyone could believe in because they could relate to him. And they were always cheering for him. He was the ultimate babyface wrestler because he was your average person. He was above that. He was, leading that pack there. So everyone
the everyman.
The everyman, exactly. Everyone could get behind it because everyone could relate to it, and that's what made it such an entity of a persona from him.
Yep. So, tell us about your first match. What was it like? How did it go? What were your thoughts going into it, and your thoughts coming out of it? All that good stuff.
So it wasn't something that it was lined up. It was an opportunity. And a lot of things in this business are opportunities. I was driving up with a couple of my friends that are in the business. I was very new at this time, probably about 9 months training in Indiana at this time. So roughly about 2.5 years of training in total. I personally didn't think I was ready. Obviously, we're all hard critics of ourselves. We're never ready until we're given the opportunity and kind of pushed into that deep end to sink or swim mentality. There was an opening booking here in South Bend from a company called RCW, where I was able to step in the ring and actually have my first match. I had very basic gear. It wasn't the Ashton Adonis you see today. It was the beginning and kind of the turning point of who and what that was going to be down the road. So that roughly took place of August of 2023 was my debut.
Nice. So, we've heard about your first match. Now tell us about your favorite match that you've been a part of.
There's a lot. There's a lot that goes into it. One of my proudest moments recently is my official TV debut on OVW, Ohio Valley Wrestling. That happened roughly about 2 weeks ago after about 7 months of being there waiting for the right opportunity. Again, when I speak to opportunity, there was someone that unfortunately could not make it for personal reasons, and they needed someone to step up in the locker room, someone that's been paying their dues. And I was able to get a chance and an opportunity to go against one of my friends there, Dustin Jackson, in the ring on OVW TV live, for everyone to see. So that was one of my proudest moments, and that happened, mid-September of last month. So,
wow, that's exciting. That's Al Snow's organization, isn't it? Yeah.
Running around out there in Louisville, Kentucky.
Yeah. Yep. So, what would you say have been some of the most unusual experiences you've had in wrestling? And it could be anything from an unusual venue to something weird in the travel to anything like that. Just any odd stories you might have.
So there's it's wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
Every day there's a journey. Every day there's a story that needs to be told. So my trainer and myself actually relatively took a road trip up back home. First time wrestling in front of the native land of Massachusetts. And, unfortunately, we were in a situation where there was a lot of dispute around staying and lodging and the money not being there. But at the end of the day, you got to put that stuff aside because you're there to perform for the fans that show up and pay the tickets to actually get the experience. So relatively, if you were able to get, your money up front or a little bit later, obviously you don't want to be taken advantage of, but we do this for a reason. And that specific reason is for the fans that come out to have that experience. So that was one that, is definitely a moment that is a learning experience to make sure that we have things lined out more professionally next time. But it was nonetheless something that we had to work through. So taking that long trip, finding out, the money that was supposed to be there wasn't there for everybody. But I always wanted to step up and say, it doesn't matter. We're here for a purpose. We're here to perform in front of the fans that are here to watch us and support us. So let's go out there and let's do that dang thing.
So, do you have a personal preference yourself between working heel or babyface?
I mean, Ashton Adonis is what it is. And to me,
Yeah,
it's situational based on what I need to do and what story we are telling, right? And what is cascaded throughout those, involvements, interactions with the individual we're working with. So no other heel or baby, I'm not really going to give an answer to that because I really think it is 100% situational and based on what story and what animosity and what type of drive we have and what type of story that we're trying to give to the fans.
right, right. And something that has always really interested and truly amazed me are the people that can transition back and forth from heel to baby and really not change much about their character, but just subtle things to influence how the crowd is going to receive them. And I mean, to me, that's magic. The people that can seamlessly do that are literally just wizards.
I mean, there's a lot of people that get over just being themselves. One of the most modern ones would be like LA Knight, for instance. He is never changing anything about his character, simply whether
No,
you want to get behind him based on the premises and what they're saying, or you can hate him immensely because he's just so over the top. And that's kind of where I see my character, my persona kind of falling in between, where I don't want to say, oh, I do this or do that, because again, that's really too much to really expose. It's basically based on what is the means, what is the business, and what are we trying to do.
gotcha. So, and I know this type of thing actually happens more than a lot of people realize. But can you share an example of a time where you've had to truly improvise during a match?
So no matter what you do, we are trained athletes, and
Right.
even on our best days, there are equal bad days in the office. And what I mean by that is sometimes you can go out there with a game plan that what I'm gonna go do out there, and what I'm gonna perceive to the fans, and what I'm gonna do. But based off of what they're feeling or what people have already done on the show or even prior to my match, especially if you're later in the card, you don't want to give people the same type of match 6 times over. You want to go out there and do something differently. So being able to adapt to what they're feeling and what they're vibing with to be able to get the most involvement and the most energy in your match is something that's truly, truly spectacle to be a part of, and something that people in this business have been working on for years and fine tuning that. And there's just, you just go out there and you just got to go off feel and reactions. That's why for me, it's you go out there and you just work with what is provided in a safe way.
Got you. So, as far as your in ring work and your promos go, who or what would you say are some of your influences? And it can be other wrestlers, it can be pop culture, anything. What has who or what has shaped the Ashton Adonis persona?
There's tons of pull from back in the day. Like Bobby the Brain Heenan was one of the biggest heel managers, so kind of going over everything that he was to get the reaction there, to all the way to the modern day of like the Miz, for instance, being able to be the most hated person, but also doing stuff that's been able to keep you running for so many years. And there's so much in between where there's so many things from so many different athletes from a pop culture standpoint that you pull from and kind of get it. But at the end of the day, it's up to us to really go out there and find what is our character, like what can we go out there with 100% confidence, like this is us, this is me, we are one. Ashton and me, Anthony, we are together, we are one, and that is something that we need to really kind of hone into. So there's multiple kind of people that I'm inspired from, obviously from like the Shawn Michaels and everything like that, but at the end of the day, I really want to say like I'm working on evolving me and my character, and then so we can kind of live in adjacency with one another.
Gotcha. Speed round. Wheeler Yuta.
I like his recent work. I'm not too familiar with some of his older work, but the most recent work with AEW, I've been a fan of, especially now he's kind of turning that babyface leaf. So it's exciting to see what we have in front of us from that standpoint. But really a strong mid card that's always out there putting the most intensity he can with everything he does. So respect.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I actually think he's one of the better technical wrestlers AEW has right now. I mean, the guy can really kind of do it all. So
yeah, there's a lot of athleticism on the AEW roster. There's a lot of people that want to go out there and do the Osprey Ricochet match in spots over and over again. But again, there's only one Will Osprey, only one Ricochet. So you got to find your place and find your niche. And he definitely takes that to where he is a technical worker. That's why pairing him with the Bryan Danielsons and part of that kind of faction, it suited him very well.
Right. It's funny. I was telling you earlier before we went live that my wife is anything but a wrestling fan, but she loves her some Ricochet. Yeah. I mean, she will sit there and watch a Ricochet match just because of what the guy can do with his body. I mean,
and that's where that draws the casual fans in.
Right.
The things that may not be. You're not going to sit there and put on like a 60-minute Iron Man match or like the old school stuff, because that's not going to draw in the casual fan base, right? Us as workers and people who respect the business will very, very much respect those matches even more than some of the high-flying matches.
Right.
But to draw that casual fan, to get them into starting to be a fan, you got to sometimes show them those athleticism and some of those things that not a normal average person can go out there and do.
Right. So do you have an all-time favorite match as a fan? A match that you can have watched it a million times and it just doesn't get old and there's always some new nugget to glean from it? What springs to mind?
So one of my favorite matches, and maybe sometimes one of the better WrestleMania matches, is WrestleMania 25, The Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels. Now, that's not obviously the retirement match that people probably remember off the bat more, but the story, the passion, the emotion, that was all just laid out there. That is one of my favorite matches of all time to go back and to put on and just have a good time, just actually being a fan. So that is definitely one of my favorite ones of all time.
It's funny. I have asked that question in pretty much all of these, and I would say that match has been the answer more than any other single match. Everybody just loves loves Taker and Michaels at 25. I mean, and it really is a masterclass.
Don't get me wrong. I like some old fashioned, I like some Rock and Roll Express, some tag team action back in the day, some Von Erich stuff, but it's just me and what I was growing up through and everything I was watching. It's just kind of hits home in a lot more categories there for me, from more of a personal and from a understanding of the business standpoint.
Right. So, and this can be present day or past. Who would be some dream opponents for you? Who would you love to work?
there's one name that comes up that I'm like, from a realism standpoint, and something that could happen relatively more realistic, and that would be Nick Namath, Dolph Ziggler.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is somebody that I've watched my whole growing up, someone that I've always thought was one of the better baby faces that never really got that run that you truly want them to have. That Soul Survivor in Survivor Series, the day that Sting returned to the WWE for the first time, one of my favorite Survivor Series ever. It's just someone that realistically I would love to stand across and be able to have that moment with and share the ring with. Luckily, my trainer was able to share a moment with him in the ring here, Squared Circle Expo last year. So there's still unfinished business there that hopefully can have a resolution. But at the end of the day, I would love nothing more. So Nick Namath is definitely on the top of the list there.
Awesome. Yeah, he is doing some great work in TNA right now. I've really been impressed with what he's been doing over there. I mean, to some extent, reinventing himself, getting to have some matches that it wouldn't have been possible,
Yep.
had he stayed where he was.
He wanted to be used, and as
Yeah,
long as he was a WWE product and a byproduct of the machine of WWE, there was a lot more left to give. And as his career winds down, I think he wanted to go experience some of those dream matches that, like you said, just could not happen right at that moment, or maybe in his career, that the trajectory he was going. So being able to take that step and that leap of faith, just like Matt Cardona did. I mean,
yeah.
reinventing yourself and just going out there and just taking, what you need to do. And, there's a lot of great former WWE people that are making an impact. Like EC3 is one of the another names that come to my list, where that's someone that I truly respect, someone that's been in the same I've shared locker room with, someone that I
Hmm.
actually look up to and I would love to work for from an Exodus Pro standpoint, where here on November 15th, they have the tryout seminar, the preface, that I will be going to, and that I will try to, do what I can to be a part of that.
Nice, nice. But yeah, from what I know of from what I know of Ashton Adonis, I think you and Nick Nemeth could actually do some good work together. I think you guys could
I'm
be
always
money.
available, and I'm only one message away, one email, one phone call, one anything, one carrier pigeon. If you have it, I don't care. I will be there. I will be there with bells on, and I will go out there and do whatever I need to do to show him the respect that he deserves, as well be able to show him that I'm able to keep up.
Absolutely. So, you're still a pretty young guy, so this
Yes.
may not really apply all that much, but I'll ask it anyway, and that is what hurts right now?
Oh, what hurts is simply the fact that I'm not signed per se. But at the end of the day, like anything we do, football, any type of physical activity, there's going to be bumps and bruises. What I can recommend, the best thing that we can do as athletes, is stay in the best physical shape as much as possible. Because if you're in the gym, you're eating right, you're really trying to invest in yourself and the product of yourself. Because at the end of the day, we're all entrepreneurs in our product, and we are selling ourselves. We're selling ourselves. We want to be we want to be the reason why people come sit front row. We want to be the reasons. We have to look the part. You have to look the part. You have to stay and you have to maintain your body, because if you don't, it's going to break down a lot quicker. Just like if you don't maintain your vehicle, it's going to break down, just like your body. So you keep your mind right, keep your body right, keep your heart right, keep your brain right. Protect yourself, get the rest you need. Don't overwork yourself. There's a line between going out there and really pursuing it and attacking every opportunity possible, but you got to take those steps. Sometimes you got to take those moments. You got to recover, because if you light the candle at both ends, you're not going to be the best product for yourself. So
Speed round.
boom.
Shane Douglas.
Shane Douglas is someone that actually had a pleasure of sharing the locker room with, Mr. ECW, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The franchise Shane Douglas. I know Triple H took a lot of inspiration from Mr. Shane Douglas. So there's a lot
Hmm.
of things that he did that got over more from a fan perspective. But to me, I'm talking to him personally. I'm a big fan of Shane.
So, in general, what are your thoughts on the current state of the industry?
Oh, I think it's the best place to be right now. If you are a wrestling fan or someone that's trying to get into the industry, right now it's the hottest time to be a part of it. There are so many branches and so many other companies, and there's so many more eyeballs on the product right now than there ever been. I mean, the partnership with the TKO and the UFC and everything they're doing, going out to other continents and countries and putting on these clinics and masterpieces. I mean, right now WWE is the hottest it's ever been in many years, and maybe that was a good push from their competitor AEW. Now, do I think there's a place for AEW, there's a place for WWE, there's a place for NWA, there's a place for Access Pro, there's a place for Impact Wrestling, there's a place for everything. If they
Yep.
want to bring back Lucha Underground, there's a place for that, right? There's a
Oh yeah.
niche, AAA, all of them, and that's where let's not go against other companies, but embrace them. Embrace the
Exactly.
opportunity, embrace the wrestling, embrace what people are going out there and what they're doing. They're putting their life and their body on the line for us. Let's not sit
Yep.
there and talk about like, oh, they did this storyline or they did this first. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's
Exactly.
it's good television, it's good entertainment, and that is what we're paying for. So please support the indies, support your middle of the road, support your juggernauts. I mean, we're all here to get us jobs, and we're all just trying to do what we can do to be the top guy of an industry.
Exactly. And I've noticed, particularly in the last few years, with the whole AEW WWE thing, there is a lot of tribalism,
Yes.
and a lot of people are of the mind that you know I'm a WWE fan and everything else can go hang. you
Yep.
know I love all of it, and I mean, to me, the tribalism is just so toxic,
As
and
fans,
it's
you need to respect and love all wrestling. Now, there may be certain types of wrestling that you're not a fan of per
right,
se. You might
right,
be a fan of your Wheeler Yutas. You might be a fan of your Ricochets. I mean, you're going to have your favorites and you're going to have your favoritism of what type of style matches. But at the end of the day, we're all trying to go out there and do the same thing, that is put on a good product for people to
exactly,
invest into.
exactly. And you were talking about just all of the great stuff that's going on, all of the great companies, and one of the things that I'm just loving right now is the new attitude of collaboration that the new regime in WWE has. Like this crossover they've got going right now with TNA.
Yep, TNA and
That
NXT crossover is great because
yeah,
it's getting eyes on both products. That's all it's doing.
exactly. And that type of thing, unfortunately would never have happened under Vince. I mean,
No, and we have to, there's this is going to be, there's a lot of gray area with Vince McMahon right now. Obviously, with the
oh
documentary
yeah,
and everything going around, there's a lot of things. He's a terrible person for what he did, yes. But at the end of the day, the industry would not be what it is
oh
without
for
him,
sure,
and we need to understand that.
absolutely,
And you have, separate. At the end of the day, Vince McMahon as a person,
yeah,
not great. I'm putting that on the record.
but a
But
genius,
he, him and his father,
yeah,
put up the industry and gave this industry legs when no one else wanted to invest into it, and they made it into the company, gave us the legs to get it into where it is now. So
absolutely.
it,
oh
you have to
yeah,
respect.
I am in no way diminishing his contributions, but along the way in recent years, I will say that he did kind of lose touch. Um, yeah,
Oh,
and
yes.
but I mean, the feeling that I have right now with this collaborative attitude is that really and truly anything is possible, and that's exciting, because
You don't know who's going to show up on any
exactly.
given day. The Rumbles have been a, obviously
Hmm.
example of that. The collaboration with NXT, letting AJ Styles go to New
Right.
Japan and wrestle a
Yep.
match, letting, Charlie Dempsey go in there and
Yeah.
do his thing. There are many avenues there where there weren't those avenues prior. And again, I think we're all in agreement where there's a good product. If there's a good platform, they want good talent. It doesn't
Right.
matter
Right.
how.
And one final just kind of funny thing, and I actually just love this, and the irony is not lost on me that the two main guys from DX are now running the company. I mean, I just find that
I
hilarious.
loved it.
I
I
mean,
love it. Some of the
yeah,
it's the product that they're putting on. I mean, they understand the business, and it's funny because they were feuding with that family throughout their most of their whole tenure. But
yep.
at the end of the day, they were smart and savvy business people, and they understood, like, behind the scenes, they understood what was being perceived and what to put on. Maybe Triple H more than Shawn at times,
Right.
but at the end of the day, what Paul Levesque has been doing with the product has been,
Oh,
fantastic. And I've been fortunate enough to be a part of some, extra talent work for WWE, and being able to shake hands with him, and be able to talk to him for not a long period of time because they're busy. They're putting on a
right.
product. But just to, talk to someone like them, and being able to hear wisdom pour out of William Regal's mouth is a privilege. Now, if you ever get the opportunity to be around any of those individuals, just shut up and listen.
Oh,
Shut
yeah.
up
I
and listen.
mean, Regal is a mind. I mean,
He he is phenomenal, and everyone needs to respect and appreciate the ground that man walks on. And while he's still able to do what he's doing and being able to help the newer generation, please listen and please respect everything he is saying, because he knows everything. Whatever he says is right. Whatever you say is wrong. And
pretty much, yeah.
yes.
Speed round. Kerry Von Erich.
Ooh, I was more of a Kevin fan, but Kerry was great. Had some personal demons on him. A lot of respect. Found out obviously what happened. Knowing that he was wrestling without a foot for a little bit there. So
Yeah.
it's remarkable what those brothers were able to do, and unfortunately, a lot of them passed way too prematurely.
Yeah.
Iron Claw to this day is still one of my favorite movies, even though it didn't really. There was a lot they kept out of the movie to keep it
They
maybe a
did.
little bit lighter, a little bit more
Yeah.
PG 13ish, but
Yeah.
it still put a limelight on everything that they gave to the business and to the industry. So
Absolutely. So, what is your take on the role that social media is playing as a promotional tool in wrestling?
it can be used as it could be your best friend, or it can be your biggest detriment. Be smart. Be smart in what you say out there. Be careful what you post, because anything and everything will be found out. There is someone that gets paid to scour the internet and find things that we've said in our past, even when you were 10 years old with your Facebook. So just be
Oh, yeah.
smart. Be smart. Think about, when you post things or say things, be like, do I want this cascade to millions of people? Because at
Yep.
the end of the day, that's where it's going to go. So just be smart about it. I think it's a great tool to be used, but again, it's very dangerous, and you need to be smart about it. Again, we are business people, and we need to be perceived that we're not here, to just say things and do things, and put ourselves in a very negative limelight. You use it as positive, and use it to help showcase and show people and bring that casual fan over to be invested in you and your product.
Yep. And like you were saying, I think a lot of people still don't fully grasp that once it's out there
It's out
forever.
there. It's
I
out there
mean,
forever. Even when you delete it and pull it back in, there's still someone that might have screen captured it, screenshot it,
yep,
taken this, done that. And you won't find out until you're at that premises, you're in the promised land, you did all that hard work and determination to get there. But that one video of you doing something stupid comes out and really diminishes your character. You really have to think of it. And that's where it's a little bit tougher for the younger people getting into it, because everyone thinks they're invincible until you're punched in the face. So
yep.
just be smart about it. Everything can be perceived negatively and positively. So just please be careful.
So, do you enjoy participating in tag team wrestling? And when you do you have a typical partner that you enjoy tagging with?
So I don't have, it's tough. Again, premises, storyline, business. What's the business? What are we doing? What are we trying to perceive here? And what we're trying to kind of give to the audience. I don't relatively have a individual partner. I've partnered with many people, throughout my tenure so far. One of my closest friends, Dylan Bostic, has been one of my partners. We're a team known as Top Tier. That was something that I kind of meant. He was my mentor for a little bit when I was getting my legs into the industry, where he was able to kind of help me and guide me down the right path. But the Ashton Adonis that you see now is more of a individual persona, where we're a leader of the pack. I lead. And that's where I haven't held tag team gold. I hold some individual golds right now as a single star, and that's where I'm kind of be. But if there's a need for it, and if there's a want, and there's an opportunity, and I'll be a tag team. That's it. So if there's a need and a want, if it makes sense to the business, I'm all game for it.
Gotcha. Well, like I said a few minutes ago, you're still a comparatively pretty young guy, but
Very raw, very young into the industry.
but knowing everything that you know now at this point in your life, if you could give any advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Should have started earlier. You always, for me, obviously the pandemic and a lot of things hindered my prime per se, where I'm 26, I'm still
Mhm.
young, but to me, I mentally give myself 4 years and I need to have a game plan and a game kind of lined up there, what I want to do and where I want to push it. Because once you hit that 30 mark, WWE doesn't want old talent. They want young bucks. They want people that are able to go out there and do things, have quicker recovery time, or if you have to be an established individual with a name. So, I'm not built like Bobby Lashley. I'm not that type of individual. I'm not bouncing around and springy like Ricochet and Will Ospreay. I'm my own individual where, I kind of want to take after a role similar to what Randy Orton does. Very safe, very, very motion driven, very smart in between the ropes, not putting yourself at risk on a daily basis, even though you are, because you're still putting yourself out there, but you're not
Right,
adding to those, industries
right.
or generating a
You're
higher risk or percentage there. So,
you're
uh,
mitigating risk as much as possible in a high risk environment. I mean,
Exactly.
yeah,
Then there's a time and a place to bust out those big moves in front of,
right.
1,000, 2,000, 50, 15,000 people. Like there's a time and a place in a storyline that is behind it that makes sense. I don't need to go out there and do backflips and landing on concrete and basketball courts. It's just not needed right now. It's not needed to
Right.
where we're at. So my one tip would be get into shape, be healthy, and pursue and attack whatever dream you have, whether it is professional wrestling or anything else.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So, do you have a favorite move, something you just really enjoy doing? And on the flip side of that, is there a move that you either won't do or would rather not do? And that can be giving or receiving.
There's a lot of moves that I kind of try to shy away from, moves that you can't protect yourself relatively, right? Everything we do is real to an extent,
Hmm.
right?
Oh,
The
yeah.
best way to protect your opponent is to know how to do the moves the correct way, which are the legitimate. And everything we do is legitimate. Everything we do does hurt. Everything we do, it does put toll and years off your body. But that would be my takeaway. I don't want to do anything to anyone that is not safe and that I have not done before. Know that I can do it with 100% flawless every single time with execution. That's why we
Gotcha.
train. That's why we stay training. That's why even when I'm quote unquote graduated, I'm never done learning. I still train anywhere from 2 to 3 times a week at my local dojo with my trainer, Jake Omen. I am still trying to go to the gym every morning before work. I am still trying to do jogs at night. I am trying to do everything I can to keep my body the best I can. Uh, so nothing that's unsafe. My finishing move, my creme de la creme per se is my finishing move is a TKO. It is
Hmm.
called Fall from Olympus. It is a simply resting on the shoulders, spin out into basically a cutter aspect. That is the move that I will use in my repertoire to put the end to a match.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So, do you have any pre-match traditions, rituals, superstitions, anything of that sort? Anything that you try to do consistently before you go through the curtain?
So through the current immediately, I always kind of take that minute. I kind of crouch down, just kind of clear my head, take that deep breath, and then spring through the current there. Because at the end of the day, like if you don't get those butterflies, then you're not doing what you love. There's a difference between being nervous and just not knowing what you're doing. Um, so those pre-match jitters are always there and they're always real, and they happen to people that have been doing it for years and years. It's something that it's kind of that natural adrenaline boost that you get before you hit through the current. You do those push-ups, you do those elastic bands, you try to get yourself as loose and limber as possible, and then blast through. But I'm a big man of silence. I like that almost like a meditation state before I go through. So I like silence, I like to compose, and I like to kind of go through. But obviously, prior to that, hours before, I like to feel the ring.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going with seeing if there's any obstacles, seeing the environment, taking a look at the fans, taking a look at where they're going to be sitting, looking at everything that's going to be happening later that night when you can't go out there when there are tons of fans out there. You want to be able to envision yourself doing what you're doing, and that's kind of my ritual. It's a lot of people's ritual, but I always do that before.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So sort of check the situation out and then go backstage and find Zen.
Yes, exactly.
Speed round. Bailey.
One of the most recent, four horsewomen, right? The
Mm-hmm.
kind of first Grand Slam champion from a woman's perspective in WWE. So she will always ever have that. I like to reinvent her, the way she's going now, going from one of the most hated dastardly heels to now one of the most over women baby faces is something that we really need to look at and take note of and how they did it. If you're looking for something to research, I would kind of go, if you're looking for that, look for Bailey. I mean, she's putting on some better matches now. I mean, back in the day, NXT, I think she had one of her better runs, and but
Mm-hmm.
she's still someone that has a lot of wisdom to provide to the industry.
Absolutely. I'm liking this face version of Bailey better than the Hugger Bailey. The Hugger Bailey never really did it for me. Just it
It
just
was it was
wasn't
for the kids,
the
and
kids.
that's
Yeah.
where. And I hate saying for the kids, but at the end of the day, they knew what they were doing, and
Right.
the fan base they were going after, and that's where she was able to take it. And she put everything into it. And that's another thing. It's taking whatever creative, step that they're giving you. Like, hey, I really want you to go out there and be the best version of this, and taking it and making it the best, and then evolving it and making it even better. And a lot of people have made careers off of that, like the Hurricane. I don't
Yep.
think Gregory Helms was thrilled to hear that, hey, you have to go under mask and do this thing and try to pretend to be The Rock for a minute, and he made the best out of it. So uh,
Absolutely.
there's
And
a lot of things like that.
there are people that you could give them virtually any gimmick and they're going to get over with it.
Yep,
And I mean that's a gift,
yep. And those are the
they
true people that will stick around and then they know their worth.
yep, yep. So something that I've done in all of these that's just been kind of fun is I've let the current guest pose a question for the next guest. So my previous guest was a wrestler actually based here in Georgia by the name of Jonah Hunt.
Okay.
He's a young guy and still fairly new to the business, but he posed this question, and that is, what has been your favorite WWE belt design and why?
Big Goldie. Big Goldie, World Heavyweight Championship. That has been my favorite because to me, that is the personification of what a world title should look like. That and the 10 pound of gold NWA title. I mean, those are the
Yeah,
two titles to me are just chef's kiss on that. I wish I was around, and hopefully there's a chance. I know they kind of revamped it recently, but it's just not the same to me. It's not the
I
same.
agree. I agree. Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, as a kid living in the South, I'm basically a huge NWA mark, and I agree with you. To me, the 10 pounds of gold is the world
That's
title. I
professional
mean,
wrestling.
yeah,
That's professional wrestling. Ric Flair, Von
yeah,
Erich. I mean,
yeah.
it's Harley Race. It's coming. You can't get away from that. It's great,
No, no.
and it's still the same one. It's still the same
Yeah,
10 pound of gold. It's still. It might have honestly, they might have updated it a little bit here and there, and obviously probably re-leathered it. But at the end of the day, it's still what that title was and still is to this day. So
absolutely. So, since this is part of a series, do you have a question that you would like to pose to the next guest? And I'll
what
go
was
ahead and
yeah.
I'll go ahead and tell you the next guest this Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I've got Marty the Moth Casillas
Oh,
as my guest. So it doesn't have to be a question necessarily particular to him, But do you have a question you'd like to pose?
My question is, what would be your favorite venue to work out of, and what has been your favorite venue thus far?
Okay. And how would you answer that?
The one I would love nothing more to be in front of is Madison Square Garden. You know, you
Mm-hmm.
have the Tokyo Dome. You have a lot of places that are just absolutely phenomenal. But to me, Madison Square Garden's been that. If you were on the grand stage at Madison Square Garden, that's awesome. You know, and thus far, I would have to give it to looking at my tenure. I'm privileged and honored to be able to work in OVW right there at Hots Point Arena in Shepherdsville. So
Awesome. Awesome. So, we're getting toward the end of things. So do you have any upcoming shows or anything at all that you would like to give some hype to?
oh, I got a big list here. We're booked out in all of 2024, making strides here for 2025. So coming up, we got an event for Upstart Pro Wrestling here in Rushville, Indiana. The week after that, you could find me working at RCW in South Bend, Indiana as well. And then the next day on the 20th of October, it's going to be Pro Wrestling Empire in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. So we got it jumping around there. And then for the 26th, you're going to find me in Huntington, Indiana there. And then we have a Sheridan show right here up the road for the school that I am currently training out of for October. So October is a very busy month. And obviously every Thursday, I'm going to be there at OVW in the meantime. So everywhere, if you follow me on my socials, it's at Ashton _Adonis _. You're going to be able to find me looking around. I'm posting my matches, recaps, snippets, upcoming matches, upcoming feuds, promos, etc. So never a dull moment there on any of my social media platforms. So it's the same on X, or formerly known as Twitter, whatever you guys want to call it nowadays. It's Ashton _Adonis _. So
Nice, nice. So something we're going to do before we end for the evening is get your predictions for this coming Saturday's AEW WrestleDream
absolutely.
pay-per-view. And these matches are in no particular order, but we'll start with the AEW World Championship. Bryan Danielson versus Jon Moxley. Who you got?
Danielson. There's going to be some interference. I think we have a surprise appearance from somebody on that show. So I think the kind of storyline where the whole Moxley group, I think they're going to lose, but then they're going to even the odds there at the end. I think there's going to be someone pulling the strings behind the scenes. A lot of speculation with that being Shane McMahon. So
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
Yep. So I don't want to say too much or burst anyone if you haven't caught up on anything, but I think that's where they're going with it here. So
so do you think we're going to see Shane in AEW?
at some point, yes.
Yeah, I tend to agree as well. I don't know if it's going to be this Saturday because I feel like they're trying to kind of do a slow burn,
They
but
are but there's a lot of hints. We may get the next step down that road, but something's gonna give
yeah,
in that match.
yeah,
Maybe it doesn't show up there, but there's gonna be hints. There's gonna be another layer to that storyline. It's not gonna be considered the blow off yet.
right, right. So the AEW International Championship: Ricochet versus Will Ospreay versus Konosuke Takeshita.
Osprey's going to retain. I think he hasn't had a true run with it. I think this is the whole reason why Ricochet came to AEW was to go and wrestle Will Ospreay. So
Yeah.
as long as they keep going, I'm going to be a fan of it. It's great. So I'm all for it. Obviously, they wanted to keep both people looking strong with the finish they had there recently on AEW. So they're just going to kind of extend this. And I think Ospreay walks away still your champion there. So.
Okay. TNT Championship: Jack Perry and Katsuyori Shibata.
I think Jack Perry's going to keep on holding on to that title. I think they got to do a little bit more there with Jack Perry because people are still not buying into that whole character, and his whole identity is that he's mad and he hates CM Punk, and he's slowly getting away from that. But I think people still are not bought in on the whole Jack Perry experience yet.
Yeah, yeah. You know, one thing I will say about the whole Jack Perry thing, you know, I had a moment when they were doing the build up to
Yep.
SummerSlam with you know, with Punk and Drew McIntyre.
Yep.
I had this hunch that we were going to see Jack Perry show up at SummerSlam and cost Punk the match. That would have been amazing. I mean,
I still think there's not enough uniformity between AEW and WWE. Right? I think they're still
right, yeah.
I don't think they would be sharing the platform quite yet, but
Right.
that'd be a heck of a swerve.
That would have been amazing, though.
That would have been a heck of a swerve. So for sure.
Okay. Darby Allin versus Brody King.
You know, that one kind of took place recently. You know, they had Brody King come in at the end of, I believe it was an open challenge from Darby Allin that he successfully won, and then Brody King came out and kind of beat the living out of him. So
yeah.
I think it's going to be your simple little man, big man type style match where can Darby's speed kind of overcome Brody's strength, and can he get caught or can he evade? I think it's going to be a simple match. I think, you know, they love them some Darby Allin. I think he somehow pulls out the victory there. So
yeah. I think right now they are really high on Darby. So I agree with you. I think it's going to be a very physical match, as most of Darby's matches are. I think he likes to basically destroy himself every. Yeah, he does.
You know, all for him. You know, there needs to be a fill. Someone needs to do that on the card, and Darby, you can have it, man. It's on you.
Ring of Honor World Championship: Mark Briscoe versus Chris Jericho.
I think there's a lot of history. There's a lot of history there, and you know, the Briscoe. It's a nice story. It's beautiful story. Do I think he is a world champion caliber talent? I'm still a little different. I mean, he is great. Chris Jericho, one of the best to ever do it. I love Chris Jericho. I don't know. It can go either way, but I'll go Briscoe retaining.
Yeah, I think I will too. You know, what's odd to me is right now there are 6 matches on the WrestleDream card, and a third of the matches are actually Ring of Honor matches. So, I mean, you know, it's a little strange to me to have an AEW pay-per-view where that many matches are actually Ring of Honor, but
they're affiliated, of course.
Right. But
some great
still,
talent there.
You know,
but yeah,
but you know, keep it separate. I mean, I don't know. And then finally, we've got the Ring of Honor World TV Championship: Atlantis versus Brian Cage.
You know, this match I don't have a lot of knowledge to. I'm a fan of Brian Cage to an extent. I do think his work has not surprised me recently. It's been kind of the same type of, you know, he's in tag teams, he's in this 6-man's, he's in this, he's in that. He hasn't really found his identity back from leaving Impact when he was a world champion. So hopefully this is kind of a step to push Brian Cage. I mean, if you look at him, he's a genetic freaking freak. The dude's absolute animal. I don't even know how he washes his own back. Like I don't get it. But I do. I think Cage. I'll go Cage.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I would actually like to see him get a run with a singles belt. You
Something,
know,
right?
under that umbrella. You know.
Yeah.
You know, I've recently actually been going down the Lucha Underground rabbit hole. You know, I didn't really see it. I really wasn't really aware of it when it was on. So I'm actually just about to finish season 1 of it.
Oh, wow.
And seeing, you know, some earlier, you know, Brian Cage and Ricochet as Prince Puma, and and you know, and several other names. I mean, yeah, it's like you said, Brian Cage is is you know, a genetic freak. I
Yes,
mean,
he really is.
um,
So, you know, he may not be the most limber between the ropes, but there's a place for a big man on every show. So,
right, right. You know, I would actually have loved to have seen a prime Brian Cage versus a prime Brock Lesnar. That would have been an interesting clash. I mean,
that would have been a battle of the behemoths for sure.
yeah,
There,
yeah,
just
absolutely.
awesome.
Well, anyway, we are pretty much at the end of things. So I want to thank you so much for your time. This has been an absolute blast. You know, I love talking about this stuff, love nerding out about it with like-minded people. And so, you know, thank you. And, you know, for those of you that have been watching this live, thank you. For those of you that'll be watching this on replays, thank you for that as well. If you like what we have going here, you know, please spread the word. This thing is really taking on a life of its own. You know, I was telling Ashton before we went live, you know, I'm booked up for the next 3 weeks, and the bookings are really coming fast and furious, and it's just exciting to be a part of all of this, and just to have a small part in telling the stories of people chasing a dream, which is why I'm focusing on the indies. You know,
Yep, you
there
never
are
know where
just
we're going to end up.
exactly, and there are just so many cool stories out there, and I'm just really enjoying this ride.
Absolutely.
um, so anyway, I will be back Thursday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern with Marty the Moth Casillas, who he's actually a veteran of Lucha Underground, and I believe he did a stint also in WWE developmental for a time.
Awesome.
Um, so anyway, I'll be back on Thursday, like I said, and until then, everybody be safe. Be praying for the folks in Florida right now,
Yep.
because another terrible storm is on its way and supposed to make landfall some point on Wednesday. And it's looking like another killer storm. So, you know,
Yep.
if
Pretty sure.
yeah, it's been a rough season.
Yes.
Um, so anyway, thank you, and we will see you on Thursday.